കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ? Am I audible? Okay. So let's start out. Okay. See, first of all, നമുക്കൊരു ഈ വേൾഡ് ഹിസ്റ്ററിയിലും ബി എസ് ഒരു അനാലിസിസ് എടുത്ത് നോക്കാം. ഓക്കെ, അതുകഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് നമുക്ക് മുന്നോട്ട് പോവാം. ഞാനിപ്പോൾ ഹാൻഡ് ഹോൾഡിംഗ് മെറ്റീരിയൽ രണ്ട് ഏരിയയിലാണ് തന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഒന്ന് നമ്മുടെ ഈ പറഞ്ഞ എന്താ പറയുക, നമ്മുടെ ഏൻഷ്യൻ മെഡീവൽ ആർട്ട് ആൻഡ് കൾച്ചറിൽ തന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, രണ്ട് മോഡേൺ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ തന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. മോഡേൺ ഇന്ത്യ നോട്ട്സ് കിട്ടിയിരുന്നോ? Have you received the notes that sent on India? Has it been updated in your group? Okay, that will be sent today itself, so don't worry about it. Okay, we will resolve that issue. I'll ensure that that note reaches your group today itself. Okay, in that note there are certain important aspects related to the examination. Mahatma Gandhi, I've given two additional comparison based questions, one being Mahatma Gandhi and Bal Gangadhar Tilak, the other being Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore. Please to go through this. These are probable other probable individuals who could be in the mix of of being asked as questions. Okay, then I have also given certain important facts, one being the specter of communalism in pre-independent India. Communalism, what are its issue, what are the different issues related to communism, how did it develop in independent India and all that, or pre-independent India and all that. So that too you have to go through. Colonial architecture is another important portion. Okay, so there are three handouts related to this, one being the updation sheet, the other being the additional handouts that I've given. Go through that. Okay, now we will look into the various aspects of the subject of world history. One thing that you must remember is that world history was a question. There was a question from world history last year. It was extremely simple. Okay, 2019. There was no question in 2018. There was one question in 2017, two in 2016, two in 2015. Okay, then in 2013 and 14 there were a barrage of questions. 2014 there were 3 questions. 2013 there are around 4 to 5 questions. That was because the number of questions itself was 25. Okay, that is why you could see such a large scale exponential, or you could see such a large scale increase or large number of questions those years. Okay, after which there has been a steady decline. So world history is no more as relevant as it used to be. I think that pattern will continue. I don't think there will be any reversal anytime soon. Okay, they might ask greater number of questions in art and culture, as well as modern India, but I don't think they will try. They will try posing more questions in the areas of world history and post-independence. Post-independence hasn't been a separate question topic for maybe 6 years. Okay, since 2014 we have not had a question that can be considered purely post-independence. Okay, you could add society related questions as post-independence, but otherwise everything post-independence has not been as a topic matter of question making. You can never say, but the UPSCs continue to follow that tradition and trend. Okay, even in recent years. So one can safely assume that post-independence has lost its importance when you consider the beginning of or when you consider the transformation phase of the examination. Okay, in 2013 post-independence was very important. Okay, so more number of questions from post-independence than modern India. So now, okay, so let's just go through the let's just go through the analysis. Okay, see, world history. When we take the subject of world history, okay, one could safely assume that there are certain traditional areas related to world history. Okay, that is one being, the most important being Industrial Revolution. Okay, Industrial Revolution. Then Industrial Revolution, there has been almost 2 questions from this section. The most commonly asked being colonization and decolonization. Okay, around 5 questions from this section, 4 to 5 questions, depending on how you take one of them. Okay, so around 5 questions from this section. Then comes the world wars. Then comes the Atlantic revolutions. Atlantic revolutions include the French and American revolutions. Okay, the Atlantic revolutions. There have been 2 questions from this area. Okay, so these have been the major areas. Otherwise, there have been certain standalone questions. One related to communism. Okay, and Stalin, communism and Lenin. Okay, one related to the Great Depression, or okay, one related to the Great Depression. Then, of course, the world wars. One question on the, or 2 questions on the world wars rather. Oh, okay, 2 questions on the world wars rather. So world wars have also been important. Okay, so these are the major topics. UPSC hasn't basically gone beyond these topics. If you look into the syllabus, you can see that all the syllabus topics are very judiciously covered by the UPSC in world history. Okay, there is colonization and decolonization, which is judiciously covered by the UPSC. Then there is the wars, which is also a topic of question making for the UPSC. Okay. Then there is communism, socialism. So communism also was a subject matter to question making. Okay, so they try sticking on to the syllabus, or rather, there have been certain aberrations here and there, but otherwise, it is questions majorly come from the syllabus. All you have to do is read the NCERT, read the world history NCERT, and also read a good material on decolonization and colonization. I'm not going to give you a material there, because you can have umpteen number of sources in the net. Okay, so read a good material on decolonization and colonization and decolonization. You can have a number of materials are available online, okay, pertaining to these topics. Okay, so these are the major areas. Please read the NCERT. The NCERT will suffice. Go through the questions part, go through colonization and decolonization very carefully. Scramble of Africa is very important here. Okay, topics like scramble of Africa, decolonization of Africa. Okay, one standout question was a decolonization of Malaya. That I guess they just wanted to test your nerves. That is it. They wanted to see whether you would break under pressure. Okay, so that was the only stand question in that year. Otherwise, decolonization has also been largely on traditional lines. Okay, so prepare a general note on decolonization and also on colonization. You will get umpteen number of notes online. Okay, prepare a note on it. That will help you. Don't try preparing for specific nations. Okay, now I would suggest you guys to prepare on Indochina. Okay, decolonization of Indochina, since that is there in the NCERT. Okay, contemporary world history, NCERT, standard 10, I guess. Okay, that particular portion is there in standard 10. Okay, so you can go through that. Otherwise, you just prepare a note on Indochina. Okay, Indochina includes the Vietnam War. We're talking about the Vietnam War here. Okay, so these are topics that are familiar to most of you. So you should look through the colonization era as well as the decolonization era of Indochina. Okay, I think that is the only probable other area that they can pose a specific question from. There are lots of other decolonization stories, including that of Latin America, but I don't think that is specifically that important. One can never be sure. Okay, but prepare a note on decolonization of Indochina specifically. Okay, Latin America, you should develop an idea. Okay, okay, so please remember that. So all this is the areas that you have to concentrate. Rest of what you can leave. Okay, there is a particular portion in the UPS in the syllabus which is termed as redrawal of national boundaries. Okay, redrawal of national boundaries includes Italian and German unification. Okay, redrawal of national boundaries. So I guess that is a topic that you guys must be familiar with, which completes the syllabus. Okay, so you got at most 10 topics to study in the syllabus, world history, at most 10 topics. The ones I have mentioned here, and also including Italian and German unification, at most of 10 topics, please to go through. I don't think the UPSC will go beyond that. Okay, this is an area that is that is probably a safe leave. Okay, if you want to. Otherwise, you can go through all these basic notes. That will suffice. Okay, so this is pertaining to the UPSC world history portions. UPSC and PIC is a more complex mix. We do not have a proper sample size to even account for any pattern there. Unfortunately, we haven't yet had a good sample size. If you want, I will post my notes. I'll post certain important sections in the group tomorrow. Okay, PIC, certain important sections in the group tomorrow that will include certain various movements that will help you enrich your answers in other arenas. Okay, I'll give notes on various movements, including women movements, tribal movements, etc. Okay, I'll post a detailed note on it. Go through that. That will help you enhance and enrich your answer. That is all that is going to help you in. I don't think there'll be a direct question from BIC. I think that this pattern will continue this year too. One can never say. In high probability, this pattern will continue, and there will be no reversal of it in the near future, since the UPSC is more comfortable in raising questions from these areas. That is why we can never say, but nonetheless, be prepared in certain basic areas. I'll post certain notes on PIC tomorrow that will make your preparation much more easier. Okay, world history I've already mentioned about the areas that one must prepare. Okay, so don't worry about it. PIC, I'll handle part of the load. So you can be rest assured about it. PIC is much more difficult as an area of preparation since you have very little online notes available in it. Otherwise, you have to go searching for the right thing, right areas. So I'll post a note on that part. We'll end our analysis part there. Okay, we'll go on to the questions now. Okay, now. So let's start with the questions here. Okay, so it's the same pattern. We've got 3 questions of 10 marks and 2 of 15 marks. Doubt in the somebody has turned on the mic. Okay, we've got 5 questions on the whole, 10 questions, 3 questions of 10 marks and 2 questions of 15 marks. I'll post the question in the chat box. Let's start writing as soon as I post it. Okay. So okay. So this is the first question. So please start writing. Maximum of 8 minutes. Okay, so we can start writing. Okay, stop writing. I have posted the next question in the group. You can start writing that. So you can stop writing the question. I have to the next question. So please start writing it. Okay, please try the next question. This is a 15-mark question. So you're going to take 11 minutes to answer this. stop writing. I have posted the next question. This is also a 15 marker. So you can take 11 minutes. So please start writing. Okay, so let's stop writing and we'll type. We'll start the discussion for these questions. UPSC ചോദ്യങ്ങളാണ്. Okay. These have been, all these questions have been framed well, but I would say that they are relatively simple. I'll tell you how to tackle these questions. Okay. Most of these are relatively simple, but of course, one could safely infer that the UPSC questions have got a lot of width. They cover a number of topics with a single question. Okay, so that is its peculiarity. UPSC ചോദ്യങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു പ്രത്യേകതയാണ്. Okay, we will try solving the questions now. Okay. Okay, so let's look at the first question. Define the barriers of age, gender, and religion. The Indian women became a torchbearer during the struggle of freedom in India. Discuss. This is a 10-mark question. Okay. 150 words. Question. Define the barriers of age, gender, and religion. The Indian women became the torchbearers of the freedom struggle. Okay. What is the answer to that? So, the torchbearers. Okay. So, the role played by women in national movement intro, after which define their roles. First, in the phase, first phase, civil rebellions നടക്കുന്ന സമയത്തും revolt of 1857. Okay, ഇതിലൊക്കെ women played a major role. Okay, women played a major role. You can give examples. Examples Avanti Bai, Rani Lakshmi Bai. Okay, they were all examples. Civil rebellions. Devi Chaudharani is an example that one could cite. Devi Chaudharani was one of the leaders of the Sannyasi rebellion. The first phase, women were active participants in the social upheavals that happened all throughout the country. These upheavals were majorly isolated and regional, but women too participated in with enthusiasm, but at a lower degree. Now, let's look at the second phase. Second phase, the early phase of nationalism. We're talking about up till 1920. Okay, Congress up till 1920. Second phase. Okay, during the second phase, women did participate in. Women participated very actively during the Swadeshi movement. Women were active participants. The Swadeshi protesters or the Swadeshi leaders even adopted a theme that was related to a feminine conception. That is, the nation as a whole was conceived to be feminine. So there was a feminine conception of nationhood developed during that time. This, which in itself is an indicator of the kind of role that women played. Okay, so there is another thing: active participants. Women were active participants. Okay, Bharat Mata and all that. Okay, now third phase. Sorry, at the end of the second phase, back into the second phase, what happened? Women leaders, major women leaders like Annie Besant, Sarojini Naidu. Emergence of women leaders like Annie Besant and Sarojini Naidu, who raised women issues. Like voting rights. Okay, voting rights. Raising of age of consent. They started demanding various they started campaigns for empowering the women folk in the country. Okay, so this is at the fag end of this phase. With the arrival of Mahatma Gandhi, things changed. Okay, 1920s Gandhian phase. Gandhi inherently believed in the capacity of Indian women to participate in struggles. He was a bare witness of their capacity way back in South Africa, and thus believed in it. Okay, so because of the Gandhian moderation and encouragement under Mahatma Gandhi, non-violence was an important factor which attracted women. Non-violence, the themes that Gandhi adopted, all these were important factors that attracted women. Okay, Gandhian themes charka, salt, and all that were very emotive issues as far as women were concerned. But 1920s, with the arrival of Mahatma Gandhi, okay, in the non-cooperation movement, women participated wholeheartedly. The arrest of Basanti Devi is considered to be something of great importance. Okay, in the 1930s, the civil disobedience movement can be considered as a turning point in the participation of women. Okay, turning point at women, large number of women participate during the CDM. Salt in the emotive issue, Gandhi was able to attract women folk. Okay, large number of women participate in the civil disobedience movement. Women later became inherently part of the leadership in the Quit India movement, became torchbearers or leaders during the Quit India movement. They became torchbearers or leaders during the Quit India movement. Okay. Here you can cite the example of Madangini Hasra. Madangini Hasra led a protest to Calcutta where she was shot dead. Madangini Hasra, Bogeshwari Phuknani, so on and so forth. Okay, Quit India movement, Aruna Asaf Ali, Usha Mehta, etc. Okay, so along with that, you can also bring in this topic, women, tribal protests. Okay, Gani Gaidenliu. Women participation in tribal movements, Rani Gaidenliu is a very prudent example. Okay, Rani Gaidenliu and women in revolution. You can cite a lot of examples here. Women in revolution. You can cite umpteen number of examples here. So you can shorten, or you can, if you want a 15 marker, you can write the same. You can write the same set of things, but with a more elaborated structure or elaborated format. That is it. Otherwise, you can restrict yourself. When you think that your time is over, you can restrict your answer accordingly. But this will fetch you maximum marks. This is a structure that you have to follow. Okay, pertaining to women. Am I clear there? Okay. Now, let's look at the next question. Okay, the anti-colonial struggles in West Africa were led by the new elite of Western educated Africans. This is a very simple question, actually. Okay, this is a question that is meant to, again, confuse and embezzle the candidate. The question only touches the periphery. It is not, you are not meant to delve into great details here. But you must know the name of at least one West African leader. You cannot quote, or you cannot write the name of Nelson Mandela and expect that you would fetch marks here. You need to know the name of at least one West African leader. One Mr. Kwame Nkrumah would be somebody who's famous there. Okay, so next question, West Africa. The question is, the anti-colonial struggles in West Africa were led by the new elite of Western educated Africans. See, West Africa, one of the main leaders being Kwame Nkrumah. This often, his name is time and again reiterated in the NCERT. That is why this man is important, especially in the old NCERT, Kwame Nkrumah. Okay. You could also bring in the name of Patrice Lumumba. I think this name is not there. Patrice Lumumba is related to Congo. Okay. So people are that. There are lots of other people involved in the, what do you say, African movement. Okay. So West African leaders, mention their names. That is the first thing that you have to do. The rest of it is just the same template. Okay. What did they do? Anti-colonial struggles in West Africa by the new elite of West Africa educated. What did educated Africans, what might have educated Africans done? They started criticizing the British. Okay. They constructed an economic critique, same as that of India. They follow the same path. Economic critique. They criticize the British for looting the Africans, especially by dominating the land possessions. They had maximum land possessions in various parts of Africa, especially South Africa. Okay. Also the mining industry, mining and mineral industries. Okay. So the British companies had absolute control over, not only British, but all other colonial companies had control over Belgian, French, as well as British companies had control over the resources of Africa. The Africans had no role to play there. That was one thing. They also very vehemently, vociferously criticized the cultural subjugation of Africans. Unlike India, Africa was subjected to intense missionary activity, cultural subjugation of Africans. Okay. Intense missionary activity. Okay. That was another thing that they criticized. Then the racially motivated used race signs. Okay. See, this was even more intense than what any Indian had experienced in his life. Okay. Africans had to suffer a lot because of all this. Okay. So clearly they suffered much more than we did, obviously. Okay. So that is something that we must remember. And they also constructed a see what the other thing that they did was they started mass nationalism. See, one must remember that Africa, like India, just like India, had a lot of local civil rebellions dominating them. Okay, these civil rebellions later on turned to mass nationalism. It was these new class of leaders who, through their newly acquired knowledge, managed to constitute or managed to mobilize the masses, and thus started off with a mass upsurge. Before that, just like India, most movements were local and confined. It was all ethnic. Okay, so this is something that we must remember. So these leaders, see, all you have to do was think about India and write the answer. If you don't get such points, you can write a set of points that is related to India too. Okay, without answer, വളരെ simple ചോദ്യമാണ് actually. മനസ്സിലായോ? നമ്മുടെ India, you have to use the same template as we normally would use for describing Indian nationalism. It's the same template. The only difference is you have to mention an African leader. Okay. Normally, decolonization is normally answered in the same way. If you do not know specific information about Malaya or Bahasa Malaya, all you do is you try mentioning common points related to decolonization, which would include colonial subjugation. They would try culturing the local populace. Basically, what do you say? Start plantations there. Malaysia being plantation zone, start plantations there and promote illegal immigration to Malaysia, changing the demographic scenario. You can get a lot of points there. Okay, so bring in a lot of points there. Bring in your knowledge related to Indian national movement. Okay, that is what is meant there. The actual thing that took place is something different, but that need not be understood. Okay, I hope I've made that fact clear. Study a common set of points for decolonization and use it universally. Okay, then let's move on. Okay, so the next question is, has the formation of linguistic states strengthened the cause of Indian unity? Okay, so we have to argue it both ways. One, it has strengthened how it has strengthened the cause of unity. To argue both ways, how it has contributed to strengthening the cause of unity. Okay, how has it strengthened it? Administrative convenience is often something that is mentioned by its advocates. Okay, they've always time and again mentioned about the ease of undertaking administration in linguistically divided states. Okay, that is one thing. Then protection of local customs, cultural. So language has a lot to do with the cultural fabric of the place. Okay, so language is closely interlinked with or deeply interlinked with culture. Only if you protect language can you hope to do the same for do the same to the cultural traditions of the place. So protection of local customs, culture, and language. This is another thing that we remember. Okay. The third thing is it also helped in catered to the aspirations of the people. Of course, this was after an upsurge. Okay, catered to aspirations of the people. Of course, after an upsurge, you have to see here. The Maharashtra Gujarat division. This was after a lot of hue and cry. Okay, the Tamil Nadu Andhra division. If you remember, Madras State and Andhra. Poti Sriramulu had to literally starve himself to death to ultimately attain that objective. Okay, so catering to the aspirations of the people. One other thing is, it also helped the central government implement welfare policies. See, welfare policies can only be implemented by deploying local communication techniques. Okay, welfare, it can only be implemented through the local vernacular language. Otherwise, they are not going to be successful. Had the government implemented the welfare policies in any other language, it would have found it problematic. So without division into linguistic states, you would have a lot of unwanted, unwanted emotions or unwanted irrational emotions involved in the entire process. Since it was divided linguistically, you don't have to worry about anything else. You just have to disseminate or you just have to communicate or undertake communication strategies in the vernacular language of the state. Okay, so that part was over. Imagine the government being involved in a scheme or promulgating a scheme in the erstwhile Madras state. They would have to do it bilingually, which would have only raised the tempers there. Okay, so this is one thing that has eased over time. So these are the points that you can say is favorable. Now, what can you say are the arguments against? One thing is, regionalism continues to persist even up till today. Continues to persist. See, that is because language is not the only reason or the only genesis to regionalism. There are a number of other issues, including geography, historical considerations, developmental backwardness, a feeling of alienation from the general mainstream population. Okay, there are lots of reasons to regionalism. Okay, ethnic differences, all these cause regionalism. Okay, see, Northeast is a typical example of the admixture of both ethnic as well as economic deprivation, ethnic nationalism as well as economic deprivation linked or acting together. Okay, that is why Northeast is a hub of insurgency and also demands of and also Fissiparis demands. Okay, so that is because there are a combination of various factors out there. So regionalism continued to persist. The other thing was, it did not solve a host of other issues. Since states were divided linguistically, its borders may not have been completely scientific. Okay, that was one thing. So what happened? Interstate issues emerged after that. Since the state was not actually divided on perhaps more valid conditions like geography, it it did lead to the arising of more serious issues later on. Okay, like interstate, border and water, interstate issues, border as well as water issue, border as well as water issue. Okay. Then remember about linguistic chauvinism. Over time, these states militantly promoted their promoted the majority linguistic group, okay, or a majority linguistic language there, okay, and thus wiping out the other minority language. Now they were all they were all under siege. For example, you could say there are lots of examples that you can quote. See, declining number of Telugu schools in Tamil Nadu, declining number of Kannada schools in Kerala. Okay, these are all very these are all very these are trends that are apprehensive, or that raise apprehensions. Okay, since they are not promoting the linked language of a minority linguistic group. Konkani is often considered to be a language that lacks patronage, since they pan across almost 3 states, unfortunately for them. Okay, so these languages are slowly disappearing over time. So these are arguments that you could very easily place against the advocates of division. Okay, so this is one other thing. Then lack of development within the state. A typical example would be Telangana. Within the state, lack of development within the state. So various other considerations were not considered during the time of linguistic division, which in itself was also problematic. Okay, so this is something we must remember. These are the reasons. So I hope you have understood that too. We'll move on to the next question. Next question is a 15 marker. Many voices had strengthened. This is again a typical question that the UPSC had raised. Okay, many voices of a nation. What could you consider as many voices of a nation? You could consider the women as part of it. You could consider the labor class as part of it, the capitalists as part of it, the revolutionaries. Okay, they're all these are all of them can be considered as the other alternate streams that existed within the India's nationalistic scenario. Okay, so they were all all of them can be considered as alternate streams. Am I clear there? Okay, the peasants, all of them were alternate streams. You have to mention valid examples too. See, the capitalists, for women we have already mentioned. What about the capitalists? The capitalists were initially apprehensive of the national movement. During the NCM, they were they placed themselves against the national movement. Okay, they even started an non-cooperation committee during the NCM. Anti-non-cooperation committee was established by certain members. Okay, namely Purushottam Das Thakur Das. He established the anti-non-cooperation committee. So they were initially very apprehensive of the new form of upsurge that the country was witnessing during the Gandhian era. Okay. Later on, but they slowly extended their support, or they slowly started becoming more cozier to the Indian National Congress. By the time of the CDM, the capitalists were also considered to be very closely proximate to many Congress leaders. They were proximate to many Congress leaders. They are proximate to many Congress leaders. Okay, that is why during the CDM, they too some of them did actually campaign during the protest. Jamnalal Bajaj being one of the examples. Jamnalal Bajaj actively campaigned during the CDM. So did GD Birla. Okay, GD Birla too, to a certain extent, financed the CDM. Okay, so they too had their own influence during the Quit India movement too. In spite of the capitalists acquiring generating a exponential profit, they still extended their support to the Indian national movement. You cannot say that they completely posed their faith on the nationalists, but they were seen to be increasingly more comfortable with them. Okay, they were not, they could never go at odds with the existing dispensation, British dispensation. Then that would lead to a decline in their profits or the government cracking down against them. But they pursued a policy of equidistance between both sides. Okay, so they were more inclined to the Congress nationalists during this time. You have to remember about the Bombay Plan, which was presented by the nationalists, charting out the future an economic roadmap for an independent India. Okay, 1944, Bombay Plan, economic roadmap for independent India. Okay, these are all prudent examples that one could cite. Okay, then labor class. Labor class starts out with the erstwhile Bombay Mill Hands Association. Bombay Mill Hands Association. And the Madras Labor Association. These are the first ever labor unions. Madras Labor Association. Bombay Mill Hands by N.C. Lokhande, N.M. Lokhande. Okay, N.M. Lokhande and Madras Labor Association, headed by Tiruvaka, T.V. Kalyana Sundaram. Tiruvaka, T.V. Kalyana Sundaram. Okay, his real name is T.V. Kalyana Sundaram. He is respectfully known as Tiruvaka among his associates. Tiruvaka or T.V. Kalyana Sundaram. Okay. And Dinsha. So both of them started the Madras Labor. They were strictly they were not for conducting, or they were not for participating in national movement. They strictly stayed aloof from nationalistic developments. Okay. The labor class truly became part of the national movement after the emergence of the AITUC, just prior to the non-cooperation movement. Okay, the AITUC, establishment of the AITUC was instrumental and turned a new page in the labor protests. After the AITUC, there was continuous participation. NCM witnessed a lot of participation, large participation. Okay. The emergence of the Communist Party also gave labor movements a new fillip. The Communist Party was inherently anti-colonial. Emergence of communist and left groups. Communist and socialist factions within the Congress gave it a new fillip. Okay, so remember that too. The laborers also. Okay, so on and so forth. CDM witnessed again a moderate participation. Quit India, large-scale participation. Okay, so the labor class inherently became part of it. If you want examples, I can give you Great Peninsular Railway strike during the non-cooperation movement. Strikes in tea plantations during the Swadeshi as well as the non-cooperation movement. Bombay Mill strike during the Quit India movement. Bombay Mill strike. This was a labor strike. Okay, all of these are examples, so you can quote them too. Okay, revolutionists I don't have to mention. Peasants, of course, you can see an increasing participation of peasants with the you need to write clearly is with the establishment of the Kisan Sabhas peasant participation group, or sorry, with the arrival of or after the Champaran and Kheda Satyagraha, after the Champaran Satyagraha, Gandhi's Champaran Satyagraha, peasant groups were more willing to participate in Congress protests. Motivated peasant groups started participating in the national movement. Okay, second is the Kisan Sabhas, organizing of the Kisan Sabhas. Remember the All India Kisan Sabha, which was established under the leadership of Swami Sahajananda Saraswati. Third was the communist movements, the Telangana Tabaga rebellions. All of this witnessed peasant participation. Okay, so this is intrinsically, this is the answer inherently. You can write any number of these points and fetch good marks. Okay, so this is the answer. Okay, so this is the answer. Please remember that. Let's move on. Explain how the foundations of the modern world were laid by the American and French Revolution. Okay, see, this is also very interesting. This is it. This is also very interesting question, but ultimately simple. Okay, what you need to do is you need to avoid common points. That is a challenge out here. You shouldn't try this. You shouldn't try endlessly repeating the same point. You can. When it comes to certain aspects, they've got common contributions, but do not try repetitively saying the same number of things for both revolutions. See, we start out with the American Revolution since it's the first. Okay, they are both known as the Atlantic Revolutions. Please remember that term. It is the Atlantic Revolutions were a general set of revolutions that happened in Europe, starting from the American Revolution. Then came the French Revolution, after Spanish and all that. Okay, it was part of a set of revolutions. Am I clear there? Okay, now we'll start with the American Revolution. What are the most important aspects in the American Revolution? One was most important contribution, one being establishment of an elected democratical system. First time anywhere in the world. Democratical system, republicanism. Wedded the idea of republicanism. Okay, federalism, etc. Now, second, no taxation without representation became a clarion for many future taxation without representation. It was even resonated in India. Okay, in many junctures, this slogan was taken up. No taxation without representation. Another very important slogan. Okay, then dissemination of liberty and rights of people and rights of individuals. Okay. Okay, concept of liberty. Remember the tree of liberty that was planted by the American nationalists in Philadelphia. The tree of liberty is one example. Thomas Jefferson. Rights of individual through via the Bill of Rights. The American Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights gave extended immutable rights to the American citizens. Bill of Rights, there are 10 amendments. The Constitution was created after which 10 amendments were passed in 1789 as part of the Bill of Rights. Okay, So the Bill of Rights had the personal touch of James Madison and Thomas Jefferson. That is why the Bill of Rights is extremely important. So Bill of Rights, it gave a set of universal rights to the American people. It basically enshrined a set of universal rights, right to freedom of speech, right to property, all of which are fundamental to sustain the livelihood of people. This is understood through the Bill of Rights. Okay, am I clear there? So that too is something that we must remember. Then you can write, if you think about it, you can write this too. That is, it was after American Revolution. That British focused on acquiring newer territories, on acquiring colonies. Okay, the British focused more on acquiring colonies. Am I clear there? Okay, so the American Revolution impacted. I hope you have understood. Okay, the American Revolution impacted. Okay. No taxation without oppression. Then American Revolution impacted. Okay, now let's look at the impacts of French Revolution. French Revolution impacted French Revolution impacts important impact on the concept of nation and nationhood of French Revolution. The Americans in the American Revolution, the Articles of the Confederation was written whereby a number of states would come together to constitute a homogeneous entity. Whereas in the French Revolution, the concept of nationhood was defined. American concept nationhood nationhood organic entity was defined through the French Revolution. Okay, concept of nationhood. Am I clear there? The motherland. Okay, or the fatherland, whatever you can call it, the motherland or the fatherland. Okay, French Revolution. Am I clear there? That was one thing, very important aspect of French Revolution. Okay, then what else? National symbols. National symbols, including the flag, anthem, etc., was innovated by the French. Okay, another important aspect. Then liberty, equality, fraternity, Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. Directly influenced by Thomas Paine and his dictats. Okay, so Declaration of Rights of Man, liberty, equality, fraternity, enshrines the principle of liberty, equality, fraternity. Okay. Then, what else did it, again, what else did it promote? An anti-monarchical, anti-imperialist struggle. Okay. It resonated across the Western world. There are lots of nations which are reeling under monarchical rule. Okay, like Austria, Prussia, Russia, all of them were influenced by the tenets of the French Revolution. Okay, tenets of the French Revolution are people who are reeling from monarchical rule, anti-monarchy, anti-imperialism, and all that were connected to the French Revolution. So I think we have written really different and diverse point of views here. Okay, abolition of slavery, another important, abolition of slavery, another important aspect which could be mentioned here. Abolition of slavery. It motivated and inspired the whole of Europe to follow suit. Okay, even America was, many early American thinkers were influenced by the measure, the steps that were taken by the French revolutionaries. Now, if you want to make this is the answer, but if you want to make it better, I would suggest I'll use certain additional points. Okay, what were the failures of American Revolution? These are just additional points. First, women were treated unequally. Okay, even though women too participated in the American Revolution, they were treated unequally. Republican mothers Republican mothers or revolutionary mothers okay, they had to now soon after settle down in their traditional role. അമ്മയായിട്ടിരിക്കാൻ പറഞ്ഞു, റവല്യൂഷനൊക്കെ പങ്കെടുക്കും, നല്ലത് അമ്മയായിട്ടിരിക്കാൻ പറഞ്ഞു. Okay, women were treated unequally. That was one thing. Slavery continued unhindered on. Okay, so the Afro-Americans, the African slaves, or African people were yet to be liberated, not liberated. The Bill of Rights were not applicable to people of color. Bill of Rights were not applicable to people of color. Okay, native tribes were wiped out. See, the native tribes had mostly chosen the side of the British, since they knew that the American, that as soon as they knew that if the American Federalists managed to liberate America and gain independence, or finally gain independence, what would happen? They knew that they would no longer be protected. Otherwise, the British had actually established a line, a borderline between the Native American settlements and the European colonized settlements. They had actually developed a borderline. Okay, but after independence, the American colonizers decided to breach all those and then enter into Native American areas. The theory and the doctrine of discovery, etc. Whomsoever discovered a new plot of land, whichever white man discovered a new plot of land, he would automatically have the right to own it. This is the doctrine of discovery, which was had become common by that time. So many Native Americans were dislodged from their land. They also were harassed by the new colonizers. There were a number of wars that broke out between both sides. Native American populations dwindled after that. Okay, these are the failures of American Revolution. French Revolution failures. French Revolution French Revolution fell into anarchy and confusion. Itself fell into anarchy and confusion. Okay, that's reign of terror. September massacre, reign of terror. Okay, Maximilian Robespierre, reign of terror, Jacobin club in there. Okay, so itself fell into later on. The monarchy was restored under Napoleon. For the value that, for what? See, the values that the French revolutionaries strongly fought for were intended to finish off imperialism. What happened? Napoleon managed to attain power and he restored back monarchy. And the French citizens were willing to accept it, since they had grown tired because of the years of instability that was the mainstay of the French revolutionary years. Okay, so monarchy was restored under Napoleon. Okay, monarchy was restored under Napoleon. Okay, so these are certain things that are also part of the French Revolution that can be considered as a failure of the French Revolution. Okay, so I hope you have understood this question. Okay, I hope you have understood this question too. So we've finished. We are at the end of this. We finished this discussion too. I wish all of you the very best for your examination. Please do prepare well. I'll be posting. I've already mentioned that I posted the rest of the notes, non-India notes, in your group. I'll post notes on post independence tomorrow. Okay. So everybody, please do prepare well. Write the examination well. Okay. Stay safe. Stay secure. Thank you. If there are any doubts, you can raise it. Okay. I'm ending this. We finished the session. If there are any doubts, please do raise it. So I guess there are no doubts. Thank you all. Okay.
ഒരു ബേസിക് ഡൗട്ട് ആണ്. GS1 ഉം GS2ന്റെയും ഓവറോൾ ആൻസറിംഗ് സ്ട്രക്ചറിന്റെ പറ്റിയുള്ള ഡൗട്ടാണ്. അപ്പോ basically GS2 നമ്മൾ ആൻസർ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ we try to make the points as short and concise as possible, and also നമ്മൾ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യന്റെ സ്ട്രക്ചറിനെ above ആയിട്ട് like we give the significance and we give the limitations and then we give the way forward towards the conclusion. So അതാണ് GS2ന്റെ ജനറൽ പാറ്റേൺ.
Okay.
അപ്പോ GS1 വരുമ്പോ എന്റെ ഒരു ബേസിക് അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡിംഗില് എത്രത്തോളം ശരിയാണ് തെറ്റാണെന്ന് സാറ് പറയാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ്. ഇപ്പോ വി മാക്സിമം ട്രൈ ടു സ്റ്റിക്ക് ടു ദ ആക്ച്വൽ ഡിമാൻഡ് ഓഫ് ദ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ. എന്നിട്ട് ആ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ തന്നെ വി ട്രൈ ടു സബ്സ്റ്റാൻഷിയേറ്റ് വിത്ത് ആസ് മെനി പോയിന്റ്സ് ആസ് പോസിബിൾ, and those points in GS1 can be little bit lengthier and not so concise as compared to GS2. അപ്പോ ശരിയാണോ തെറ്റാണോ എങ്ങനെയാണ് സാർ?
It depends on the kind of preparation that you've all done. So basically, if you've got a question that you are already quite prepared on, okay, GS1 എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത് ഫാക്സിന്റെ ഒരു കളിയാണ്. The more unambiguous and clear your facts are, the more marks you fetch. GS1 പ്രത്യേകത അതാണ്. That is why certain people always consistently score well for GS1, since they got enough factual information that they can fill the paper well. Okay, so if you've got more facts, the more marks you fetch. The more unique your facts are, the more marks you fetch. GS2 it is you may not even have know the background of the question, but you can still answer it. But that didn't demand your head. GS2 is more about answering the question well. GS1 is more about meeting the demand of the question and also bringing in as much facts as possible. Okay, adana inde reading as many diverse points and as much facts as possible. Facts kondirna. So we have included a lot of facts. I haven't tried conjuring up random details. You may not know all these facts, but as far as the thinking process is concerned, you must try creating diverse points always. Okay, diverse points ne GS1 il mark kittullo. Unlike GS2 or GS3, you can have a replica of the same point somewhere else, but in a different format. That is not going to work in GS1. GS1 is clearly factual. You have to have two different points for a question to get or you have to have a set of different points to fetch a good mark for a question. Okay, that's the only difference I can say. Okay, and you can attempt all questions even if you are not clear with the facts. You can conjure up good facts, but that should be diverse and different. Okay. Okay.
Hello.
പറഞ്ഞോളൂ.
Hello.
പറഞ്ഞോളൂ.
Yes, അപ്പോ basically ഞാൻ last 2 years മെയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു.
Okay.
അപ്പോ previous 2 years എനിക്ക് GS1 കൺസിസ്റ്റന്റ്ലി ബിലോ ആവറേജ് മാർക്സ് കിട്ടിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്നത്.
Okay.
അപ്പോ basically അനലൈസ് ചെയ്തപ്പോ for me the factual information in GS1 it's kind of pretty less, but still I try to more number of points include ചെയ്യാൻ നോക്കുമ്പോ the overall quality of the answer goes down. So അതിന് പകരം ഇക്കൊല്ലം I'm kind of aware that my factual information for GS1 is kind of below average. So കാരണം can I try to answer it number of points കുറച്ചിട്ട് കൂടുതലൊരു പാരഗ്രാഫ് ഫോർമാറ്റിൽ ആൻസർ ചെയ്യാൻ ബെറ്റർ സ്ട്രാറ്റജി എങ്ങനെയാണ്?
പാരഗ്രാഫ് ഫോർമാറ്റിൽ നമുക്ക് നോർമലി ഒരു GS പാരഗ്രാഫ് ഫോർമാറ്റ് നമ്മൾ എത്തിക്സ് വെച്ച് ബാക്കിയൊരു GS പാരഗ്രാഫ് ഫോർമാറ്റ് ചെയ്യാണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന നല്ലത്. GS1 paragraph format ചെയ്താൽ പ്രശ്നം എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ GS1 the subject in itself is factual. So if I were to be an examiner, I wouldn't have the time to go through all your points and then correct your answer. Okay, so I will only look at the crux of the point. It is better that you stick to a point format, but just try creating diverse points. That's what I saw. You may only know 2 points. Our 2 points are to fetch you good marks. But just try at that moment, try creating diverse ideas. Okay. ഒരേ സാധനം തന്നെ പറയണ വരെ ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ തിരിച്ചു മറിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞ വരെ നമ്മൾ ഡൈവേഴ്സ് ഐഡിയാസ് പറയാൻ നോക്കുക. The answers that I gave you is the most ideal ones. So these are not answers that I would normally write in an examination. It's not possible. Okay. So what do we try to do? We try creating diverse ideas. Okay. Diverse ആയിട്ടുള്ള പോയിന്റുകൾ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ നോക്കുക. അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ. Okay. You may only know 2 points, but you can construct some points from your from the already existing information that you have. So I think that will suffice. Okay. History, if you study history, you'll get good marks. You should be preparing on society well, I guess. അവിടെയാണ് കുറെ പേർക്ക് മാർക്ക് പോവുക. I think that will be a solution. Society prepare ചെയ്യാണ്ട് പോകുന്ന ആൾക്കാർ ഒരുപാട് പേരുണ്ട്. Society prepare ചെയ്യാൻ നന്നായി. I don't know what your option is. So I'm guessing that society might be a problem for you, but I don't know. So just prepare well. GS1, if you prepare well, you kind of will get marks in it. Okay. Okay, so we'll end our session here. Thank you all for tuning in. So good night.